Welcome back to This Week. It's time to bring in our panel, our duo of experts here. We're saying not quite a huge panel, but believe me, we'll be able to fill the airtime. We welcome back Metro Councilman Jerry Maynard and syndicated radio talk show host Steve Gill, heard locally on 1510 WLAC. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Nothing really to talk about. Actually, let's talk about the mayor's budget. That really was a big headline, and it's my understanding that the mayor didn't give the Metro Council a whole lot of wiggle room to deal with this. I mean, you almost were forced to pass it, and it seemed to be pretty well vetted, yes?
Well, we had to have, what happens is the mayor gives a proposed budget, and the proposed budget was 53 cents. It could have been 56 cents. If he'd given us 56 cents, then we could have had some wiggle room to do some things. But because he brought it in at 53 cents, there really wasn't a lot of wiggle room to cut. So if you had cut anything out of the budget, you were really cutting to the bone. And so the council had to take that budget proposal from the mayor. Our chair, Sean McGuire, saw about $8.5 million in savings that he shifted from spending over to a reserve account for future debt services. So we really didn't have a lot of wiggle room. This is why. The non-discriminatory spending is 2/3, and so we only had 1/3 left to really play with.
Yeah, what do you think about it?
I think it's interesting that you've got a 53-cent budget proposal increase, and the compromise is the 53% budget proposal increase. So there wasn't any compromise. There wasn't any real attempt to cut. You know, I know that the school board is out there with their political flack out there claiming that they had to suffer a cut of $3 or $4 million. The bottom line is they're going to be spending about $40 million more this year than they did last year. That's only a cut in the wither world of Washington and apparently in Nashville now, where an increase in spending is somehow defined as a cut. There could have been real cuts, and they didn't do it.
There couldn't have been real cuts because we only had 1/3 of discretionary spending, and if you had cut that, we would have had to lay off police officers, firefighters, teachers. You would have shut down parks and libraries, and no one wanted to go there. Even if you look at the conservatives that are on the council, when you looked at their actual spending cuts, and we talked to them about it, they backed off of those cuts, and 33 people voted for the budget. Once you found out you had to cut teachers, you had to cut firefighters, you had to cut police officers, you had to cut parks and libraries, and when that came, even the conservatives said no way, and they voted for the budget.
The money to the education, raising the starting teacher salary, is that not just a good thing to do to make sure you're in the game? You're competitive with other counties?
Well, I'm not sure that raising the starting pay helps as much as raising the pay for the best teachers, and that's not what we're doing. We're not paying the best teachers more. We're paying more to the starting teachers while we're losing best teachers who after a few years realize there's no competitive edge to being better than the person in the next classroom. It's all a matter of seniority. Plus, in the education budget, you're still paying labor union representatives to work just for the union on the taxpayer dime. We ought to eliminate that. That ought to be easy.
I talked to Dr. Register. It's hard to compete with other counties when you're 30th in the state. Nashville has a lot of challenges, 125 different languages in our public school system. 125, plus you have all the other issues dealing with 75% of our students are on free and reduced lunch, which means you have a lot of other issues that are involved. So when you're 30th in the state and you're trying to recruit teachers to come to Davidson County, when you can go to Williamson County and other counties, they're paying way more. We had to raise the starting pay in order to be competitive. Now we're number 3. We really should be number 1.
But raising taxes $100 million on small businesses and homeowners is only going to continue that flight of the job creators out of the county, which is going to raise the number of people who don't have jobs, who don't have opportunities, who don't have income. You're going to have more students who are going to be on the free and reduced lunch, the same way that you've seen the same prescription followed in the Philadelphias, in the Detroits, and other cities. We should be trying to avoid that. A $100 million tax increase means that government is going to take $100 million out of the pockets of business and put it into their priorities rather than ours.
Last word, and we're going to move
on. Sure. When we talked to the Chamber of Commerce and other small businesses, they said we need the infrastructure, we need the investment, we need to make Nashville move forward. We did not see any businesses leaving Nashville when we raised taxes under Purcell and under Bredesen. I think that's just a fallacy that the businesses will leave our county because we raise taxes. They want the infrastructure, they want the police, they want the firefighters, they want the teachers, they want the best education system in Davidson County that we can have.
Okay, we're going to stop it there because we can't pay you by the word anymore. we're up. Let's go nationally. President Obama spoke to some Hispanic leaders a few days ago, and he talked about he will not give up on reform for immigration. 3 years into his presidency, can you at least admit, both of you, that this is a political move as much as anything? Because the first time he campaigned, this was a major priority in his campaign. We're going to deal with immigration. We're going to deal with it. We're going to deal with it. And now it's 2012 and he's dealing with it.
Well, there's 2 things. One is the DREAM Act, and the other one is comprehensive immigration reform. We know we cannot get comprehensive immigration reform because the Republicans will block it. The DREAM Act, you used to have bipartisan support. Republicans and Democrats supported the DREAM Act. Then after Obama got elected president, all of a sudden Republicans like John McCain and others of those who like the DREAM Act all of a sudden were against it because they were against Obama. What we have to do is we have to support Obama and his decision to say, listen, we're not going to deport 1.4 million children who were brought here by their parents illegally, but only know America. They only know saluting the American flag, pledging to the allegiance to America. So therefore, he made the right decision, and he has a record to run on with Latinos, as opposed to, this guy who did the Etch-a-Sketch, which is Mitt Romney, who said that he was against immigration. He would veto any DREAM Act, and now he's trying to appease to the Latino vote. But I think they're smarter than that. They're not going to vote for Mitt Romney.
Okay, we'll move on. No, we won't. Steve, go ahead.
The problem with the DREAM Act is you're saying to folks who are here illegally, your son or daughter can go to a college or a university supported with taxpayer dollars with in-state tuition fees because they were brought here of no fault of their own. Well, what about that parent who has a child in Pennsylvania? Their child is there and raised through no fault of their own and their no choice. But if they decide they want to go to the University of Georgia, they're going to pay out-of-state tuition, while somebody illegally in this country is going to get taxpayer support. We're being unfair to the honest, decent, law-abiding citizens at the expense of the
Is there not a compromise knowing that we've already invested in these kids that are here, that have gone through school? It's the federal mandate that you have to educate these. You already have skin in the game educating these children. There has to be a compromise with the children that grew up here.
If you start with securing the border, making sure that those who are here illegally in this country are not on welfare or not on housing, food stamps, they are all criminals, and they should not move ahead of the line of people who are following the rules and immigrating legally. It's got to be part of comprehensive reform, and there is support for it if you secure the border, stop the flood of money going to illegals who are on welfare and housing, and stop people coming in illegally, and make employers check, which is going to stop the flood in. You've got to do it as part of the whole parcel, not just as a giveaway.
You can't wait any more time, because when John McCain was running in 2008, he said he was for comprehensive immigration reform. John McCain has even changed his mind now and changed his tune. So if we continue to wait, those 1.4 million Latinos who are here illegally, they need to have a college to go to. Why? We want them to be productive citizens. We want to live the American dream. We want them to have prosperity. And it's better to have someone who has a college degree than someone who does not. And I understand what Steve is saying. I wish we had comprehensive reform. We're not going to get it. So you cannot wait. And so we have these 1.4 million people. Let them go to college with in-state tuition. That's not a crime. There's nothing wrong with that. So they can become better citizens and they can create the new jobs that we need.
Okay, we're about a minute and a half away from going to the break. John Boehner, Speaker, says don't spike the football if health care reform law is struck down, the mandate or the whole thing thrown out. Good strategy?
I think you're going to see the Obamacare provisions thrown out. The mandate is unconstitutional. I think the Supreme Court's going to rule that. Then the hard work comes of, okay, what do you do next? And I think both sides need to start coming back to the table with things that work, letting us have cross-border insurance, making sure that we're putting responsible patient care at the head of the list rather than trying to put in a government reform program.
The individual mandate is a conservative Republican idea that President Obama included. And also, the reform is an insurance market-based reform. If you don't have that, if you don't have the reform and you don't have the mandate, then we're going to see the insurance company saying, we're not going to work with you. We're not going to do anything regarding reform, because what? It will cost them too much money to try to add 30 million people onto the rolls, and all of a sudden you have all these people who are sick, and if they don't have everybody having skin in the game, they're going to say no.
What's going on with President Obama and the folks in the White House? There's got to be damage control if this does indeed come down and some of it is struck out.
I think they've already been given a hint of what's coming, because they're already attacking the Supreme Court for being political. They're already attacking this decision even before it's been issued. I think Sonia Sotomayor or maybe Elena Kagan, who worked in this administration, might have told them what's coming.
There might have been a phone call.
The Democratic Party is going to get excited. We're going to be enthusiastic. If it does come against our Obamacare, guess what? You're going to have Americans saying we're sick and tired of the Republicans denying us the right to have health care.
All right. Time out. Nice job. Thank you, Steve Gill, Jerry Maynard. Stay with us. This week continues in a moment with our Voice of the Week.